Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Welcome to the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 14, coming to you from the desolate wastelands of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're recording on December 12th, and I am your host, Elric Edge. With me tonight are
Bill Costello
and James Tapia.
Tonight we're going to talk, of course, about the new releases that have come out in the last couple of weeks. As well as in the realm of lore, we're going to discuss what we felt was the best of 2016 and go over a bit of a top 8, top 9. And we're also going to answer a bunch of fan requests.
Mail.
Yes. Listener emails and things like that. So let's do a show.
Let's do one. Okay.
The Realm of the New Dawn, where we're going to talk about what's come out from Games Workshop over the last couple of weeks. Quite a bit, seeing as how the holidays are right around the corner. Lots of big deals. First one we want to talk about, the Spire of Dawn, which is basically the Island of Blood over again. But a genius idea, I think, because there's tons of amazing models in that set. And the only way to get some of them is to buy that set. So,
well, I know I'm jumping on it just because the wife plays Skaven, and there's stuff that you can't find that's in that box.
Right, the weapons teams, I believe.
The mortar team and the,
Even the Swordmasters and the Illyrian Reavers.
The Reavers. You can only get. Well, you could get those old metal
ones. You don't want to be bothering with those.
Right, but at least there was an option. Whereas the Reavers, the Illyrian Reavers, the only way you could get them was out of the.
Well, they had some old metal ones.
Oh, that's right. With the metal rider and plastic horse.
Yep, with
the old
fluffy feather in the cap.
Oh. Yeah, never mind. That doesn't count.
Call me Captain Poofy.
Plus the character models.
Yeah.
Which are fantastic on both sides. I know Ryan was thinking about doing elves, and I said, well, maybe get a couple boxes, split them, and maybe I'll start Skaven.
There you go.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, now, does this bring up... it just seems to me like they're releasing this set. Skaven are already out there. They've even had a Battle Tome come out. Does this mean elves are the January release? I don't know.
No, I think Tzeentch stuff
I think Tzeentchian stuff.
But that kind of leads me to what I was going to say was, does this lend some credence that they're not going to change the elves that much? If they're because that's what everyone's fear has been. That's why no one really plays elves, I think, that much, because they don't want the aesthetic to change drastically.
Yeah,
I think that's why most people don't play any of the old school.
Yeah, because they're not sure where it's going yet. So does them re-releasing this in an AOS box set lend credence to maybe that they're going to... Of course it's going to change. Stuff's going to change.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as drastic a change as maybe we thought previously.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you look at the silver... Because we had two elves from the Silver Tower. We had the Mistweaver and the assassin guy. I forget what his name is.
Yeah, those look drastically different.
But those are kind of like dark elf. They're not drastically different. They're still recognizable as elves.
I was going to say, I think they still have the same aesthetic. They're so much more dynamic looking, but...
They're kind of like a mix of, 40K. They kind of got that Dark Eldar look. I mean, that's just one of the elf-ish factions, so... Could this maybe... If they're doing this, I mean, I hate to see them do that and then change the whole aesthetic.
6 months later, they drop a massive elf release, and it's...
Nothing like...
Yeah, and they all look like,
released.
clown cars. And...
I don't know. It is kind of...
I mean, we can just look back at previous
if they're going to
ones.
release... The only thing I was thinking is, if they're going to do Tzeentch, which everything points to Tzeentch, don't they have to have a foil? I mean, don't they have to have somebody to fight against?
The Dwarden. I think we're going to get a large release of... so I think what's going to happen is they're going to delve into the realm of metal.
Yeah.
And then... so we'll get a big Tzeentch release... Because we already have so much of it going on for 40K, it's easy to just continue that. But like you've seen with the Zangor box,
yeah,
it's a dual kit for both 40K and Age of Sigmar. And then they'll finally unveil, hopefully, the Dwarden, the Steam Head or Steam Forge, whatever you want to call them, the new Dwarden. And then I think you'll also get touches of new Stormcast, maybe a new chamber being released too. I don't know, but it'd be very easy to sprinkle in bits of Stormcast stuff there. And then because in the Realm Gate Wars book, the rules focused a lot on fire and life.
Yeah.
And they touched a little bit, the stories touch on the Realm of Beasts and the Realm of Death, but you didn't really get anything for the Realm of Shadow, and I don't think there's been hardly anything at all for the Realm of Light. So it'd be kind of cool if maybe this next story arc or whatever is the Realm of Metal that gives us Tzeentch and Dwarden,
right?
Like I said, and then maybe starts touching on the Realm of Shadow or Light,
sprinkle in something,
starts giving us some elves, maybe. I don't know, but that would be what I bet.
It's just the way I look at it. Almost anything they do these days is they're hitting it out of the park. So I'll just wait and see, and I'll bet you it's going to be good.
Yeah, and and this was such a great set. The models for being push fit basically are they're fantastic.
Yeah,
some of the best starter box models that I've seen. And then I know people were freaking out because it sold out in like 6 hours or something on the website. And of course, instant internet rage and blah, blah, blah. People were marching at the gates of Games Workshop with their pitchforks and torches. Games Workshop came out and said, look, yes, it's sold out for now. We are going to continue to make this and make it available. So,
Yeah, this isn't a stock dropper. They're making it. So,
right.
But that's a good thing.
How about that Sister of Battle model that set the internet on fire there?
Just a little. Oh my God.
So what do you guys think of it? The model itself?
Yeah.
I
don't like the 40K aesthetic, so.
So I love Sisters of Battle. I think they're a really cool army. They got cool fluff and everything. The more I look at that model, the more I dislike it.
Yeah, it's
and I think a lot of it is it's so accurate to the artwork.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of.
And that's the thing is when I saw it, it hit me as, are they making, manga models now? It almost looked like a cartoon figure.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out, like, what is it about this model that I don't like? The head is weird. Like,
yes.
And I think that's because in just about any of John Blanche's artwork, because of his style, any kind of a realistic thing, like a human face, just looks really weird. And then the feet, the shoes, I don't know what it is. They just look ridiculous.
She has shoes?
Or hooves or whatever those things are. I think those are the two things that really detract from the model for me. But I was like, well, man, here we go. Sisters of Battle. Like, is this real? No, it doesn't look like. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be plastic sisters. They did the pre-order limited run thing.
The made to order stuff is out there.
Instantly sold out.
Yeah. Even
though it's like, or did it sell out?
I don't know if it's sold out as of now. I think some of them are still available.
Okay, because like a Seraphim squad is $110 for 10.
Yeah, go figure.
Retributor squad is $85 for 10. And...
Are we talking about Stormcast or Sisters?
Oh yeah, no, there's Sisters of Battle. Yeah, it's just, and that's one of the biggest reasons why Sisters of Battle never really took off, is because it was just so prohibitively expensive.
But again, like even with the Burning of Prospero set, you can get just enough of them to add to an army to give it some fluffy flavor.
Those are Sisters of Silence. That's a totally different thing.
But anytime you have sisters around,
I guess. Saying all women look the same, Bill. They all fill the same role.
In 40K, yes. I think my wife just walked in, so I better shut up.
Yeah, for Sisters of Battle players out there,
there's a glimmer of hope.
Maybe. Hang in there, kid.
I think it'll happen.
Yeah. How about this Index? What do we got here? Index Chaotica Apocrypha?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Apocrypha.
Yes.
Apocrypha. Whatever.
Apocrypha.
Stupid words.
Yeah, that's the one that came out. The new one that's coming out is the Index Imperialis, which is the other side. But the Apocrypha is, like I said, I picked that up because I have the old one, and I wanted to see if they had changed anything on the inside. And no, it's just a beautiful hardbound edition. And I'm hoping that the Index Imperialis is going to be the same thing, because those are...
So for anyone who doesn't know, this is basically 30 years of nostalgia just shotgun blasted into your face in a very beautiful presentation. I mean,
nothing in that book works in any game you play now.
Right. This is all Rogue Trader.
You betcha.
Rules. That's what's so cool is that there's actual pictures of the rules and things like that. There's pictures of the old models.
Yeah, the pro-painted heavy metal models.
Man.
That is the style I could do now.
Some of those. Yeah. Yeah. There's stuff in here for Epic.
Yes.
And then when you get to the back and you start looking at the demons, they have rules for some of the old Warhammer Fantasy battles. I'm not sure which rule set that is. I'm sure it'll talk about it if you dig into it. Mm-hmm. But it also has the old Warhammer Fantasy roleplay stats as well.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the original ones of those books were just collations of stuff that had come out in White Dwarf. And I was so happy to see that these hardbound had not changed that. They're just as good as they used to be. And I wanted to go out to the shed and get my old, squad sheets from Rogue Trader.
Oh,
look at those guys again.
God, some of this artwork is just...
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so good.
So also, GW ripped out and this was a release for the Hobbit, which was kind of odd, but the Lake Town house, which I couldn't order it online because it was gone by the time I got there. Looks like a gorgeous kit. I luckily ordered one through Active Imagination, but it's beautiful. And they were selling them in 1-pack and 3-packs. So
so I think is there like a big set, and then that big set is then broken into 3 smaller?
It's the 3 set is just 3 of the exact same kit, so it would look kind of silly. But if you just took the houses and the wharf section, 3 of the houses, but maybe just 1 and 2 of the wharf sections, you could make quite a cool looking little piece of scenery.
So are we going to have a Lake Town table at our next tournament?
I don't know. It would be, I mean, if they come out with more along that line, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get some more Lord of the Rings terrain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I've got the Ruins of Osgiliath somewhere. So it's all great terrain that they make.
Let's see, so we have a Hobbit book. What do you talk about there?
Well, the compilation book came out for the Hobbit. So it rolls all the rules. I guess, from what I understand, it rolls all the rules and a bunch of the errata and stuff into one book. So if you have that, you can play all of the 3 games easily. So just thought it was something to mention,
Yeah, sure. It's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on now that Forge World is allowed to kind of run with it. And I definitely want to see what direction they go with the game, and definitely the models. The models are fantastic. Well,
when I was listening to Garage Hammer today, they were talking to Rob Symes, and he was talking about what's going to come up on that first week of Twitch TV, their Warhammer TV on Twitch. And one of the guests is going to be Adam Troke, the production manager for Hobbit. So he's going to probably hopefully cover some of what's coming down the pike for that game.
I'm hoping that we kind of get little teasers sometimes. I'd imagine that's something they're going to do. They'll hint at stuff, and I don't know.
It's going to be the rumor thing from the community page, just multiplied by 6.
That's such a cool idea until you look at it, and then it drives you half mad trying to figure out what is it? You know, how long is it going to take for it to come out? Yeah, it just.
But tell me it's not the perfect thing to put on that site. I mean,
Sure.
generate that interest, have 100 people talking about what it might be.
Yeah.
And spilling vitriol at each other and not you. So
good old internet.
one last thing I wanted to mention was in their on the website, the last chance section is that Assassinorum Execution Force box game. Once again, I don't know if I said it before, but I think I did. That game is a crazy good deal because as a game, I don't even know how it plays. But in it, you get all 4 of the assassins from the 40K range. Each one of those in a blister pack is what, $33?
Yeah, something like that.
And you can pick up the game for cheaper than that. So you're going to get all the other everything else free, basically. You end up getting one of the assassins for free because I believe the box is $100.
Yeah, and it also comes with some chaos models.
Yeah, there's
some cultists, and then I think some kind of a marine, chaos marine.
So, I mean, it's a great deal. So if you have any interest in those, the assassins for 40K, it's definitely time to drop that because it's on the last chance section. So that's it for the Realm of the New Dawn. We're going to move on.
The Realm of Creation. We're going to talk about what we've been up to in the hobby the last 2 weeks. Elric.
So I finally got the Iron Jaws from Ryan in the mail. So I have been slowly building Iron Jaws brutes right now since I'm still trying to include them in my list as much as possible for LVO. At this point, though, it looks like the rest of the Iron Jaws have been scrapped, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not real happy about that. I don't want to spend a whole weekend getting my head kicked in either. And I don't think the Iron Jaws have what it takes to really swing towards the top table. So it's probably going to be a mixed destruction list, more than likely. But I'm going to try desperately to at least have a nice fat unit of brutes in it. So that's what I've been doing, is just building brutes.
Scraping mold lines.
Absolutely. You heathen.
What was it on paint night the other night? Well, 75% of us actually scrape mold lines.
And the other 25 wouldn't best painted.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, maybe there's
because nobody else here paints. Bill?
Well, finished the Troglodon, finished 2 Salamanders, and base coated and almost washed 10 Chameleon Skinks. So I also got the dull coat on all the Salamanders and what have you, so that as I drop them repeatedly like I've been doing today, I don't hurt them anymore. So I think next up is going to be the Pterodons and then the Engine of the Gods. So
What are you using for dull coat?
I use the Badger Minotaur. They have a gloss and a satin sheen and a matte sheen, and I like their matte sheen a lot. It goes through the airbrush really nice, and you just thin it out. I thin it out with a little bit of the P3 mixing medium because it's a really thick medium, so that doesn't actually thin it out. And then I add a little bit of the airbrush flow improver so that it goes through the airbrush really nice. And it just dries almost instantly, and it's never frosted or done anything messed up.
I might have to bring some of my models to do that, because I've been trying to clear coat some of mine after I painted them, and they come out just a little too shiny for my taste. So I've been trying to find something to coat them with.
Yep. I like that stuff. It works well. I'm sorry, I said Badger Minotaur. I meant the Vallejo matte varnish. Sorry, Vallejo matte varnish.
Okay.
Sorry. But that's all I've gotten done.
Not bad.
James?
I haven't got that much done. I think since the last time we talked, I've just been cleaning up more dryads. Painting a little more details, eyes, the tattoos. Then I started some characters. The branch witches. I always get those confused. I think they're the branch witch. I got 2 of them. Converted them up. Just trying to keep with that theme of having everything in my army converted.
Oh, yeah.
So
They are absolutely gorgeous. Those head swaps are...
Yeah, I did a simple one, did some head swap on, did the, one of the Spite Revenant heads for one of them, and then green stuffed in, I left the ponytail and I green stuffed into the ponytail braid. And then for the other one, I had to, I did one of the Tree Revenant heads, and because the branch which has wooden boobs. I had to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So I cut them down, did some green stuff on the pecs and shoulders, and did some more hair green stuff, and was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, they're awesome looking.
They're getting there.
I take it they're on Instagram already?
No.
No?
I've been trying to...
Let's get them up there.
I at least like to get the sub somewhat presentable
Yeah,
before I
I
put
hear
it up there.
I hear you.
So probably in the next week or so I'll have that up. And then I've been working on a Lore Master of Hoeth. I haven't decided if I'm going to put him in my list or not.
Mm.
I don't know if I need to add that much more power to the Durthu.
I was going to say, you're kind of underpowered with that Sylvaneth list, so...
It might be a little overkill, but...
Is that when you were asking me if you needed the rerolls and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, because it helps with his range attack really the most. Because he's basically a unit of Kurnoth Hunters by himself with bows. Because he's got 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, winning on 3s.
A unit of Kurnoth Hunters by himself.
Whatever.
He's ridiculous.
He doesn't have the range. It's just 18 or 15.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 15. Come on.
He's
half range.
I mean, fortunately, though, you can make up for that by being able to teleport anywhere on the board nonstop and do damage to the people around you while you do it.
Yeah. Otherwise, he'd be literally unplayable.
Yeah.
I know.
Sweet story.
I just had to figure out if taking out 10 Dryads and putting in 5 Tree Remnants is worth the rerolls, pretty much. But we got the sideboard for LVO, so
Yeah.
there might be some... That's why I'm painting them up, just in case. I haven't even looked at my sideboard yet, but we'll see where that goes. And I think
I have a one-man sideboard, so...
What's that?
Dread Saurian.
Nice. How many points is he? 440?
400.
400?
Yeah. So I get a unit as Kings, too.
Nice.
It's a 500-point sideboard, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
that's all I have. Probably start those... I think I said I was going to start the skeletons last time, but... Or
The zombies?
The zombies.
Yeah.
Maybe unless I decide to convert 10 more Dryads
yeah.
for my list, which I'm seriously considering.
Oh,
I might get started on those next week. So we'll have to see. And
Fun.
it didn't help that I played 40k this week.
Yeah, I was
And-
wondering about that.
So,
but that'll be in battle, because that was for a good cause.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Moving on. The Realm of Battle, where we talk about the games I didn't play in the last 2 weeks.
Or me.
Yeah. So, James, take it away.
Let's see. 2 weeks. So I think 2 weeks ago I played Jules with his death list. He actually had me on. I think we played, I want to say, Border War.
Okay.
The one with the cumulative points with the 4 objectives.
Go Patrol! Right? I think that's
Yep.
the one.
Yep, that's the one. So we played that. He was playing his new game practice with his new death list. And he actually had me on the ropes for till the last turn, till about turn 4, I want to say. And that's when I kind of took all his toys off and
Yeah.
scored all the objectives for 2 rounds. So that's what brought me up. I think it wound up being like 21 to 16 or something like that. So, I mean, he still had a chance going up into the last round, but it was a little tough. And then last week, or this last week, got 2 games in with Andrew, with his Warrior Brotherhood, the one of the few lists I really, really want to get some practice against.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the top contenders, I think.
Yeah.
It's a popular army. It's easy to get. You can pretty much get it in a box with the Christmas release or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to take the Celestin Prime, which
Yeah.
I think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, War Brotherhood is one of those. It's easy to put on the table if you're okay with it. If you're an okay player, you'll do okay with it. If you're a top tier player, you're gonna be pretty unbeatable with it. So,
It's Eldar for AOS.
kind of. People say that about the Sylvaneth too, but hey.
I didn't say it.
Yeah.
So we stress tested that, and we played Gift from the Heavens. And I think he made the same mistake in both games that Ben Johnson made, Blood and Glory, and null deployed his whole army against the Sylvaneth,
Oops.
Oh, yeah.
which is just something you don't do. He stayed in the heavens for. Well, he came down on turn 2, I think, but yeah,
You're giving up way too much.
yeah, especially when you can with as many forests as I got and how you string them out and everything else.
And you're planting trees everywhere.
And then I'm teleporting everywhere.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop me. I mean, that's one of the ways you stop the Sylvaneth. Board control.
Yeah.
Right.
That's their greatest enemy, I think. Is if you got board control, you got the power to stop them. I mean, it's a two-edged sword. If you got board control, but then you're sitting in the forest, you're taking damage.
Yeah.
But I think that's the best way to beat them. Honestly, it's just board control and keeping them reined in as much as you can. And so we did one game. He played his Warrior Brotherhood with the Dracoth. Yeah, Selcyon Dracoth with one of Zeros, and he pretty much put half his army into one unit of Kurnoth Hunters. And with the way he rolls dice against me, and the way I make saves, I think he landed up killing one unit of one
guy.
Kurnoth Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Could have peeled me off this ceiling.
yeah, and then by turn 3, I think I already had both objectives for both turns. So I was pretty far ahead, and he just said, "Let's re-rack."
Yeah,
so he brought down the Dracoth guy, even though he's got the reckless ability to reroll charges. He had like 4 charges, I want to say, that he could try to make on a 9, and it's really hard with a reroll, even.
Yeah, even with a reroll, that's tough.
So he wanted to re-rack, and he tried to double a zeros list, which went a little bit better. He didn't put down as many points. I think he still put down. It was basically the same setup. Comet came down. I was on where the objective was. He put down 880 points.
Wow.
Of Stormcast he put down 3 units 15 Judicators, big unit of Javelin guys, some Retributors, all into the Kurnoth Hunters, another unit of 3.
God.
Wound up killing 1.
Oh.
And the Kurnoth Hunters smacked the Paladins down. It was a small unit. It was only like 5 of them, but one of them died on the way in with the trees.
Sure.
Yeah,
And then he
that's-
didn't do enough mortal wounds, and then the
Yeah.
Kurnoth Hunters just smacked them for 9 wounds, and I think it was one guy left, and we didn't even do the battle shock. I mean, he was probably gonna pop anyway, so
Yeah.
we just decided to call it there. So we discussed it afterwards, and I told him, you want to use those liberators, put them on the objectives, or where they can possibly come down and stop me from.
Mhm.
If you give someone enough free reign of the board,
Yeah, it's
I mean
over.
it's over. You need to stop them. One unit stops me coming in like that and controlling it. So maybe next time we'll play.
Yeah.
I'll get stress test my Sylvaneth, but
He and I actually played 2 weeks ago, and he played his Stormcast, and he just played like a foot Stormcast army, no formation. He just put a bunch of bodies on the table, and I played a destruction list that I was entertaining for the LVO that used a Frostlord on Stonehorn, a Megaboss on foot, 10 brutes, 2 10-man units of Ard Boys, and I put them in an Iron Fist formation. And then I ran a Thunder Tusk, just the monster version with no character, and 3 10-man units of Bone Splitters. And I did next to nothing to his army. I charged 10 Ard Boys with +1 to hit against 10 Liberators and did 1 wound. And then those 10 Liberators killed 7 of the Ard Boys in return.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just like, whatever. Ard Boys are garbage. But the rest of the army just absolutely folded. The only thing that did any work was the Frostlord on Stonehorn. Was pretty terrifying until he basically just turned his entire army
Yeah.
and focused on it till it was gone. And then the Frostlord, or I'm sorry, the Thunder Tusk was kind of scary. It was cool to pop stuff doing 6 mortal wounds. It didn't really have the legs to do much by itself either. So definitely looking at reworking the list, and I took the 3 units of Savage Oryx as battle line because they're the cheapest and they're pretty efficient, giving you 20 wounds per choice, but they just don't do anything. They can't really fight with just 10 of them. They don't get obviously any kind of formation bonus. And I think that's what really gives the Bone Splitters their nastiness, is when you can take a bunch of them on the table and then cram them in formations that give them, free attacks and stuff like that. So I think my next list is going to look at Moon Clan Grotz as core. And it sucks because I feel like I'm drifting more towards the destruction list from Blood and Glory. Not that that's a bad thing. I just wanted to kind of have my own
spin on it.
Yeah, and I'm just finding that it's more and more, as you drop the Iron Jaws out and start to replace it with stuff that's useful, it's like, this sucks,
That's kind of what you've always said, is as you start trying to fill the holes, you end up with a list of something and no Iron Jaws.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mind that. I don't mind having like a big destruction thing, and I love pretty much all the destruction stuff. I just don't want to have to buy a whole new army with Christmas right around the corner so that I can, have a puncher's chance at this thing. So that's kind of frustrating, but I think Stormcast just flooding the board with foot guys is actually a pretty good army. They suffer from, no movement. Well, not necessarily no movement. They're pretty slow. But the game of AOS is faster in general than, like 8th and 7th were. So I don't think it hurts you too bad to only be movement 4. You can still run. And...
Well, they're movement 5. It's just the Paladins are movement 4.
Yeah,
Paladins
right. And it's a lot of resilient bodies, and their characters got great synergy with them as well. So, just going up against that wall of 4-up armor save dudes was rough. He smashed me off the table. So,
and the other thing I had was the 40K Toys for Tots tournament that we had at Active Imagination Sunday, which is pretty cool. I think between the 40K players and the X-Wing guys, we were able to raise about $1,200 in toys.
Yeah,
Nice.
It was just under $1,200.
So that's pretty sweet.
The picture was 14 of you.
Yeah.
So 14 guys raised almost.
Well, one guy brought $300 by himself. For the
Really?
toys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Nice.
So it was all for a good event. I think everyone had some fun. I don't think any of us were taking it too seriously. So I got to play my Zinch spam list with 35 screamers in it. 33 screamers. And 33 screamers, 9 exalted flamers, 2 heralds, and Kairos.
Wow.
That doesn't give you many opportunities to win, though.
Why don't we play 40K more?
Which might lead us into some of our listener feedback about taking one thing and spamming it in 40K.
Yeah.
My army is essentially 4 units.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 4 units, pretty much, yeah. Screamers, Flamers, Herald, and Kairos.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, that's because of the formations. You'd have to take 9 of each of them, but so that list is pretty decent. It's interesting to play. It's a little different than my usual stuff, but we'll see.
Is that it for the
Think so.
realm
I think
of
so.
battles?
The Realm of Lore. Where in this episode, we're going to talk about our top 9 list that we put our heads together on and came up with as a group for the best things that happened in 2016 from everything to do with the AOS hobby. We're also going to talk about some viewer mail. So without further ado, we have to agree, I think we all do, that 2016 was a hell of a year for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, it was all right.
Okay, it was all right. As years go.
Yeah.
So, a lot of things happened this year. And we're going to do our top 10 list in the reverse order, or top 9 list in the reverse order. So we get to the good stuff at the end. So in number 9, we have just the return of tournament play in general and GW's involvement in that. I know we're all set and ready to go to LVO here coming up in February. It's a event that's going to be run by Games Workshop. There's over 100, I believe, or are they capping it at 100?
No, it's over 100.
Over 100.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But you also had things like South Coast GT, you had Warlords, you had Blood and Glory. Holy Havoc, I guess, was pretty amazing. Now, that one's pretty limited to a small group, but it's a very narrative, very themed thing, and it was sold out in instants. And, of course, Adepticon.
Yeah, I was going to say there'll be an Adepticon as well.
And a huge presence from GW. So, any other thoughts about tournaments?
No, it's just awesome that for all the haters out there that said, Games Workshop hates tournaments, blah, blah, blah.
They'll never get back into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, guess what?
Yeah. Might be nice for them. Well, because I know I was talking to the 40K guys this week, and they didn't even know that they were streaming. I mean, maybe because it's AOS and they're 40K players, but they didn't even know that Games Workshop was going to be at Adepticon or LVO necessarily. And they didn't know that they were streaming games and stuff, so maybe that's just a time thing, or maybe these particular players are plugged into the Games Workshop machine like the rest of us.
Maybe. One thing I've been kind of curious about is the two events they've live streamed have both been Age of Sigmar events. I wonder, is there just not any big 40K events in the UK, or?
I think they're trying to focus on AOS just to
get it out,
get that
keep
train
that roll
going. Yeah,
going.
exactly. I don't think 40K needs any help right now. I mean, they're going to be doing 40K at LVO, so that would be their first probably streamed 40K.
They're not doing it. Frontline.
Yeah,
Frontline's doing 40K. GW's doing
AOS.
Rob was saying they're going to be streaming both.
Oh,
He was
no, they're
saying
streaming both, but GW is only running the AOS.
Well, they're running that one, but I think they're going to have commentators for the
Oh,
40K one too.
Oh, I bet they will.
And it's going to be on their channel.
Because they're talking
I think
about having the dual streams.
Yeah, they're going to
going.
have both streams going for AOS and 40K.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool.
So,
Well, and you look at the Twitch TV thing that they're going to do. It's going to be
Wednesday
AOS, Thursday, a little bit of everything, and Friday is
40K.
all 40K. All the time.
Well, and maybe they don't want to talk it up as much as Sigmar, seeing as how they're probably going to blow up the galaxy.
I knew that.
And restart it all anyways.
A little low key before the end of times. All right, let's move on to number 8.
Texture paints and the new ranges of paints, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, so the only ones that I've really had any experience with are the texture paints for like basing and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're amazing. Like what a itch they scratched.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the term I want to say, but it's definitely a need they filled with something that's incredibly easy to use straight out of the pot and gives great results.
And the gemstone paints, for those of us that aren't James, that want to do good gemstones, but I've never been able to make them look like those ones you did over there. So the gemstone paints are like, wow, thank you, love you guys. And everything, the glossy shades, all the little things they've come out with this year added to the range, just amazing.
Yeah, their paint range is incredibly extensive at this point.
yeah, I think he was even talking to Chad Friday, and he was saying he's going to start switching over to all the GW stuff. He's an army painter guy right now, but he's going to be switching over pretty soon to all the GW paints.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, and it makes sense, especially if you watch their videos on how to paint and stuff. They tell you which paints to use.
Yeah. They give you a shopping list at the beginning of each one,
Yeah.
And it makes, speaking of their videos, it helps take a lot of the guesswork out of it, because we were watching the Celestial Warbringers.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go with that. We were watching that one, and it was amazing to see him just, it's just Screamer Pink, ink wash, Null Oil, Screamer Pink, and then a highlight of Celestial Gray, I think it was.
Yeah, Celestial Gray.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, like highlighting
Pink with gray.
just gray, that works. But then when he puts it on, you're like, that does work. It's like I would have just sat there, lining up the pink with white or gray or something, and I wouldn't have got that same kind of effect he did with that. But if you're using their colors, then
yeah,
it's a good map to follow and it gives you good results.
Yeah, So coming in at number 7.
The accessories. So the range ruler, the combat gauge, the repair tool, whatnot. Yeah, my favorite's got to be the repair tool.
Well, that one's a hidden gem.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's all useful stuff. Some of it might, the price you can complain about or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's all incredibly useful stuff. Especially like the combat gauge. It's just, I know Andrew has one now, and his only complaint is you can't completely take it off of the necklace or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't slide off unless you cut it. I cut mine off.
Yeah. So, but overall, I know you can make your own. You just cut something to the right dimensions.
Well, yeah, and you can buy them from just about anywhere. Litco, Six
Bendy
Square.
board.
Yeah, bendy boards.
Yeah. But theirs is badass.
Theirs is pure Sigmarite. So,
Right? But I definitely like the repair tool. The idea behind that is like I think that is a really good idea.
Discounting the fact that it's also a bottle opener, it really is just something that you always need at a tournament or a con or something like that, and now you've got it. It's handy.
Right.
But the bottle opener is the most kick butt thing.
Yeah.
And I love the way they didn't even mention it. It's not even a word about it anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's there.
It's for when you got to open those really tough bottles of glue.
Yeah, oh,
Sure.
sure. Some of that super glue gets stuck on the top. Bam. You
Yeah.
got it.
So number 6.
Which I think should be my number 1, but we'll leave it.
No,
No,
you're
yours-
number 5.
Oh.
Calm down over there.
Can't read. Never mind.
Number 6 is the Lords of War. So Archeon, Alariel, Orc Boy on Cabbage,
Well, I couldn't remember his name. I was at work.
Gordrak. Basically, how they're taking these special characters from the game that have been ramped up to 11 in the
Yes.
fluff, and then making the models for them, and they are absolutely jaw-dropping.
And yeah, and
stunning models.
when you build that model, it's as impressive on the table as it is in the book.
Right.
You know, that to me is, and it's a big risk because you're talking about minimum of $130 for some of these.
Yeah, 110. Gordrak's 110.
Oh, yeah, 110.
So.
So yeah, it's not like those things are going to go flying off the shelves to every high school gamer, but so it is a risk for a company to take.
Yeah, they certainly don't seem to have any problems moving them.
But yeah, well, that's it. Is if you make them that good,
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
gonna fly off
for
the
sure.
shelves.
And then when the rules are also really good as
Yeah.
well behind them.
Yeah.
In the case of like Alariel, Archeon's no slouch
Yeah.
either. And then with the Gordrak, it's a dual kit. You
Yeah.
can make just a generic.
right, and
guy as
Nagash
well.
will definitely win you a game or two.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, it all started with Nagash.
Yeah, he was the
back in
first,
the end times.
so.
But you could definitely see what they were capable of doing with this new computer
Yeah.
software as opposed to sculpting it by hand and,
Yep.
and whatnot. So just reaping the benefits of the advance of technology.
Yeah.
Which is
And-
awesome.
implementing it, that's the hard part.
It certainly makes you scratch your head and wonder, well, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next for these big... It's interesting to think about what they're going to do with the next centerpiece models for the next lines coming out. There's a lot of speculation that maybe the Dwarden or whatever variation they're going to be might get some crazy big golem
Yeah.
tank. Who knows what, but it could be some really cool big model. I'm trying to think of if there's a character. Oh, maybe like a Malarion
Yeah.
model, which would be awesome. Some kind of weird shadow dragon
Yeah.
god model.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even do something maybe for Teclis and Tyrion too,
Yeah.
because they're not your typical elves anymore.
Yeah.
They're gods that walk around and keep Slanesh in their back pocket, apparently. But
Evidently.
so yeah, it's just crazy some of the stuff they could potentially do, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So we can skip number 5, Sylvaneth. Nobody cares about Sylvaneth. They're not that popular. Not very good. I don't know. I think pretty sure Fire
If they
Slayers
got
put
some
'em down.
play time, I think you might find that they're good.
Yeah, or maybe if they got like a really big box that let you start the army super cheap.
Yeah.
And
That
then
way
like
you just-
another small box that let you get more of the army even
Yeah, it's like if
cheaper.
you buy the set and then you add a Lariel and one more unit of Dryads or something like that, you basically got, Blood and Glory's number 4 list, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Anyways, moving on.
So number 5 was Battletome Sylvaneth. And only that particular one because I think it set the new power level.
Or you hope it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 8th edition I felt like once they got past like Orcs and Goblins and Tomb Kings, they kind of set a standard, and to me they seem to do a pretty solid job of keeping all the armies balanced. It's when they started, when tournament organizers started implementing their own rules, I think that it started getting a little goofy because you had Warriors of Chaos that really ramped up because they could take chariots as their core.
Yeah.
But if you're playing Blood and Glory the way Blood and Glory was meant to be played, that's really going to deter people from doing that. But anyways, that's, neither here nor there. I think if this Sylvaneth book is the standard for the books to come after, and they're all relatively on that same play level, which I think they are because Beastclaw Raiders came out after Sylvaneth, and I think BCR is a really good book in a really good alliance.
Mm-hmm.
So they are definitely competitive and playable, I feel. Keeping within their own alliance or allegiance, but they also just they don't lose anything by branching out and absorbing units from the rest of the Destruction Alliance.
Right.
Bone Splitters, I don't know. I think they lack some serious things, but I haven't really been exposed to the army enough to make a call.
I think they're good. They're really good. They got some really super hard counters.
Yeah.
If they get unlucky and hit one of those hard counters, they're going to tank. If they can avoid some of those hard counters, they're going to be at the top.
That's generally the case for a lot of armies. Touching back on the old 8th edition thing, there was a bit of a rock, paper, scissors thing going around, which helped keep the meta fresh in that, like High Elves were really good against Warriors of Chaos, and Warriors of Chaos were really good against, I don't even remember.
Everything.
Generally everything, yeah. But there was a bit of a rock, paper, scissors that you couldn't, there wasn't just two armies, and those two armies kind of just bashed each other back and forth. It was, well, I'm going to put all my chips on this army, hoping that I go up against these two, but, Army X can come in and wreck my day, and it just goes like that for everyone. Hopefully that's the new standard, because it would really suck if Sylvaneth were just kind of where they are now, and then whatever comes next doesn't play at that level.
Yeah, I wanna keep playing my Sylvaneth after LVO.
Well, you can revisit your middle school days and play with yourself.
Well, there was a cutting indictment. You heard it here first.
Yeah, no, I have no desire to continue to play against Sylvaneth after Las Vegas Open. Unless it's with an army, like I said, that's on that level.
On par.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Any guys got anything else you want to say about the most broken army in the game?
No, just that I hope that power level is maintained so that they don't become the Eldar of AOS. And it just goes down that road. But I don't think they will. I think they hear the feedback. So,
yeah, definitely.
So number 4 was the getting started boxes, all of them.
For sure.
Because what a great idea. Give a actual real discount on real playable boxes and lower that barrier of entry to the game so that people can actually jump in and play this game right out of the box, if you will. So.
Yeah, they're really good deals for the most part, each one of them. Plus, generally, you can get them with an additional discount depending on what venue you go through. I know they had the battalion boxes beforehand, and those were all roughly the same price too, weren't they? Around 110 or so.
Yeah.
But a lot of those, I think, gave you units that you would just never use, or they gave you really random bits. I don't know. They were kind of weird.
Yeah. Whereas they were just big troop boxes.
Yeah. So, well, which to be fair is kind of what you needed back
for that rank and flank.
Fantasy battle. But these boxes are like nice and lean. They generally have units you're going to take, generally.
Yeah.
Not always.
all of them, but
yeah, like the demon ones are really good.
yeah,
The Skaven one.
Boy,
Skaven one's
it's
crazy. Gives you
brilliant.
Screaming Bell or Plague Furnace, and then a
Yeah,
Warp
and
Lightning
the
Cannon.
Warp Lightning Cannon.
Or Plague Thrower.
Yeah.
Plague Catapult.
Is that ever built?
I don't know. From what I hear, the Plague Catapult's good. I haven't really delved into the Skaven too much, but if you want to play a Pestilence, army, that box is a great deal.
Yes, it is.
So plus the 40K ones are pretty good too.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to play Space Wolves, you get 3 of those stupid Thunderwolf Cav or whatever. But
I think the problem with the 40K boxes is that it's such an established base. You're not so much bringing in new people. Everybody has those already in triplicate. So
the only problem I found with the get started boxes is it's not always in your best interest to buy multiples of them.
right.
So because they generally come with some kind of character model that you really don't want more than one of,
Right.
or certainly more than 2 of. So that part is kind of.
I got lucky with the Seraphon box because it has the Carnosaur / Troglodon.
Right.
So as its big thing, and everything else in there is useful. It's knights and warriors. So
Yeah. Hopefully they keep coming out with the bigger boxes too.
oh yeah,
Because like the Beastclaw Raiders one, it's basically an army in a box. I know that the ones that came out for Christmas, the Iron Jaws and Sylvaneth and Stormcast and Bloodbound, probably aren't going to continue on.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. I heard somewhere that they are, but I'm pretty sure they're not. Because they do this every year where they come out with these great big boxes. But, some of these other armies have had bigger box deals.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the Bloodbound still have one available on the website. I'm not sure about currently, but I know as soon as like a month ago, it was still available.
Yeah.
Sylvaneth had one. Stormcast had a really nice one as well. So, and those have all sold out. So hopefully they'll keep making that stuff available as well.
I think they will. So weighing in at number 3, we just kind of lumped everything about Games Workshop / Citadel / Forge World into one thing, and we just called it the new face of the company. And it's just the whole idea of how they have changed their attitude towards the customer. They've started Facebook, 4 different Facebook pages.
Well, I think there's more than that at this point.
Well, that's true. There is more.
There's a Forge World, a Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, 40K, Black Library, Blood Bowl.
Just about everything's got one.
Warhammer TV has their own. Yeah, it's crazy.
So, but they're taking feedback from the community. I mean, the 40K fact just dropped in time for LVO in order for them to process it and get it out to everybody in time to make the votes before LVO. So they're actually doing things that we always hoped they would get back to doing, which was treating their customers like people that were friends and partners in this whole thing. So anyway, any other thoughts about the new face of the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how receptive. So I've always believed that Games Workshop has been listening to the player base. I know that a lot of people believe they haven't, but I believe they've always been reading message boards and things like that. They've always had employees going to tournaments. That's not a new thing that's just sprouted up.
Yeah.
And you've always been able to play at Warhammer World with these people as well. So it's not like they just shoved their head in the sand and were like, we're just going to keep crapping out content and be damned with what people think of it. They've always been listening. It's just at this point, it's so much easier to communicate directly with them and get a response back.
Yes.
That's the big one. A response that you feel might be more personalized to your issue, as opposed to, well, if we all complain about this long enough, maybe they'll kind of release something as how it felt beforehand. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it's everything that everyone has been asking from.
It's the way it
Games
used to
Workshop.
be before they became a publicly traded company, you know.
Well,
Soon as-
it's even more so than that because of with technology. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to get stuff,
Oh.
and we'll touch on it with Warhammer TV and them using social media.
Yeah.
Having a Facebook page, you get because they did some of this stuff before, and it just never seemed to go anywhere. And I
Yeah.
think maybe they didn't anticipate how awful the internet can be, and just
They didn't have the right expectations.
maybe, yeah. Or maybe they just didn't understand, like, there's so many Games Workshop fans, I don't know if that, players of their games, who seem to never have anything nice to say about them but can't stop playing their game.
Right.
And we all know those kinds of people.
Oh, yeah.
And when you give them the internet, they're just going to be able to spew that vitriol directly at
Mm-hmm.
the people who they think are responsible for everything negative in their life. So I think the way they do it now is just, it's awesome. You know, the paint videos and again, this just everything to do with their social media presence. And yeah, it's just incredible. And it's only going to get better
Yeah.
with what we're going to talk about next. So
You betcha.
so number 2 is Warhammer TV.
Yeah.
And what it's going to mean. And obviously we don't know quite yet. It launches here in 2 days.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to be greatly anticipating,
Yep.
especially since it'll be Wednesday, Age of Sigmar,
Yeah.
the first day, to see just what they put into it, because they have been absolutely buzzing about it. You know,
Yeah.
Rob's been doing the podcast circuit.
He has done, well, everyone but ours.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm
I'm just gonna say this off. You know, they're gonna get my money no matter what, pretty much.
Well, you'd be crazy not to, because I mean,
I
they
mean,
say
I've heard-
£5, so it'll be like,
$7. I mean, I
Yeah.
watched some stuff this last week on YouTube, and some people were complaining about it. Oh, I'm never gonna do that. It's a rip off of my money. It's as much as Netflix and blah 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 blah. I'm like, really? Like,
all
you
right.
gotta put your money where
Yeah,
you.
but
I
can
mean,
you
it's
get
like
Duncan
it's like
Rhodes
$7.
on
That's-
Netflix? Hello?
It's like,
You know?
and the way Garage Hammer was putting it today, it's like one movie costs you what, $15 to go watch
Mm-hmm.
for 2 hours, as you might
Yeah.
enjoy, versus a one time, you know, for a month. Rob keeps going on about, you know, you're gonna get what, 60 hours of content at least.
Yeah.
I mean, for $7, that's less than
Yeah.
the movie, and you're getting, you know, what, 25 times as much content as you would a normal movie.
And even on Garage Hammer, well, I listened to it today, the latest episode, talking about how Duncan Rhodes is going to do these half-hour-long painting videos live. So that alone is probably worth the $5.
For essentially the same cost as a White Dwarf,
Yeah.
you're going to get, if it's 70 hours a week or whatever they're saying, is that right?
Yeah.
I think their conservative 60 was
Yeah.
60 to more, 60 plus.
Okay, well, so 200 plus hours of content a month for less than the cost of a
Oh,
White
No,
Dwarf.
that's 60 a month.
Sorry, 60 a month.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, that's a ludicrous amount of content.
Mm-hmm. And even if you're only a 40K player, so you only really have those 2 days, Thursday and Friday, or you're only AOS, you're still getting a ton of stuff. And who knows, you might watch the other night and get hooked.
Right. Like, look here, clown shoes. If you're a person that is going to complain about this, like, maybe reevaluate what are the real issues in your life. Because this is amazing that we're going to get this level of content for. And the fact that you're paying a paltry amount just means that they're going to give you that much better content.
Yes.
Right? Because they're going to be generating some income off of it, which means it increases their budget
Yes.
to be able to put forth even better stuff.
And you can dedicate a producer to it.
Right.
And,
like,
have someone who's not doing this extra on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights and then gets really upset about it.
it just, people on the internet will bitch about anything, but you got to be a flippin' moron to be complaining. First of all, because it's not even out yet.
Yeah.
So you don't even, you're going to get it the first week free.
Yeah.
So maybe then pass judgment after that.
Complain next week.
Well, and they're even saying that you don't even have to pay for it necessarily. If you watch it live,
If you watch it
Yeah,
live, yeah.
right. But
You
the
can-
first week will be available to
Yeah,
check
exactly.
back in
So, I
on
mean-
and see what you want. I
But
don't
the
know.
timing is terrible. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. So for us, it'd be, 6 o'clock in the morning? I'm not getting up.
Well, no. Rob talked about that. They're doing the narrative thing will be in the morning, their time, but the competitive game will be in the evening their time.
Yeah,
so
he's saying like 8:30 or something like that.
Okay.
So that people in the States will be able to see that live.
Look at that.
But again, even if those times don't sync up with your schedule,
you can watch it anytime.
a couple of bucks and you can watch it whenever you want, man.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
it's not rocket surgery. Like, I don't
Rocket surgery?
know. Yeah. I don't know.
Does anyone have the number to 911?
I can't believe people would be getting negative about something that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyways.
It's our hobby. It's let's go to number 1. The consensus all around gold medal from the Rolling Bad podcast goes to Games Workshop and
I don't know.
I wrote it down.
Oh, the General's Handbook.
Yay! Insert clapping noises.
Yeah, so I mean, it's for all the obvious reasons. The General's Handbook basically answered everyone's questions on so many things. For some people, it made the game playable.
Right?
And I get that a lot of people, when the game came out, looked at it and they were like, "This is essentially unplayable." In fact, some of the people who touched on it really well. There was an episode of Skull Bros back when they were still doing their thing, and they had a show called Accidental Douchebaggery.
Yeah.
And they were super enthusiastic about the game. And this was before South Coast. I think it was even before maybe Clash, before Mo did his thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, "We want to play this game. We're huge fantasy nuts, but it seems like every time we put stuff on the table, it's not a game.
Yeah.
One side just obliterates the other, and you feel bad as the person getting your toys taken off without a chance, but you also feel bad as the guy doing it to the other person because you don't know even where to start with this thing."
They needed Sylvaneth back then because they don't feel bad.
Well, one of them was playing Seraphon, so, and I think that was an issue that a lot of people had. Then along came Clash, and that helped. And then, the South Coast guys did a tremendous amount of work, and it all came to fruition with the General's Handbook.
Yep.
And the beauty of the General's Handbook is obviously the match play is a big deal.
Yeah.
So it gives everybody some kind of structure to work with, regardless of what you want to do with that structure. If you want to make hyper competitive tournament games, or at least use that as a basis for narrative games as well, you have that. But for them to also say, well, first of all, for the people out there that were getting down on the open play and didn't like any restrictions, keep on jamming, man.
Yeah.
That's a whole section of this book, and in fact, we're going to give you some more ideas to kind of run with that. And then, to me, my favorite part was the narrative played, for them to take such a big chunk of that book and give all kinds of really cool ideas on how to tell stories and everything like that. And it's got me excited for the General's Handbook too. And that's another thing they could maybe do, is expand the narrative out a little bit more, because we're getting more of the fluff and more of the story of what's going on in the mortal realms. So that's what, those are some of the big reasons why the General's Handbook, I think, is the biggest thing for 2016.
Well, I think another big part of it was not just the idea that it brought a lot of old players back, but it also has piqued the interest of a lot of 40K players.
Absolutely.
Who did not want to play a game that didn't have a structure. But I mean, you even we had Reese Robbins from Frontline Gaming on a while back, and he even said when they were first doing it, they wanted to get into it, but they just couldn't. Their mindset was too much around, let's put this on the table. It didn't work, and they didn't have the basis for it either to make it a fair game. So as soon as this handbook hits, they are all over it now. I mean, okay, so we had Reese Robbins on the podcast. They're playing it a lot.
Sure.
So that's had a huge effect on the game, bringing so much new blood into it. And, it shows. The tournament numbers are all going crazy. Hell, we can even just see pulling our own horn here, or blowing our own horn. But even our podcast numbers, the subscribers are going up all the time because it has to be. There's more people coming in, and more people are looking for resources for this game.
So I know one of the things that's kind of pointed out about the General's Handbook is how it came out a year after the launch of Age of Sigmar. So we had that year of essentially no guidance.
Yeah.
Right. And the game was whatever we wanted to make it. So it allowed the community to create things like Clash Comp and South Coast Comp. And there were others too. I know there were other groups that put together comp systems as well for points and whatnot. One of the things that has been pointed out was that intentional, that year gap, to maybe completely destroy the mindset that everybody had at the end of 8th, that hyper competitive staleness, I almost want to say, and let the players kind of roam around and make essentially whatever community they wanted, knowing that potentially, you're going to have a massive drop off because there is no structure.
Right.
Do you think maybe that was intentional? Knowing that, they knew that down the line, we'll throw out something that is going to have points, or I find it hard to believe that they were like, we'll never add any structure to this game. It'll just be the four-page rules and that's it. Now run along, children, and buy models. I don't
play more games.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was their intention from the beginning, but I'm definitely happy that's the way it played out. I don't think we would land up. I don't think the General's Handbook would be what it is today without that period, honestly, because I think it filled the gap. You had the UK tournament players stepping up to the plate, pointing stuff, coming out, iterating on this, the point system constantly. And I think that kind of set the template for maybe possibly what they have now. Maybe they saw maybe they even got some inspiration from that. I mean, because right now the General's Handbook is going to be a living document.
Yeah,
so,
that's constantly getting feedback from the community too,
exactly.
Which is cool.
So we might not have landed up with that if they had come up with points or something from the
outset.
So maybe that was or wasn't their intention. I don't know. I don't have enough info to argue one way or another.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to predict an alternate reality.
Yeah,
but I'm just happy the way it turned out.
What bears out what you're saying is the fact that when you listen to that Heel and Hammer episode where they talk about we got invited and this was amazing to go and work. Yeah. That night they got there, they were handed copies of the book. Not, obviously bound or anything, but they were handed the manuscripts of the book. So it had been done and in production and at least being edited and polished for some time. And then they went and play tested it. But it's not really well said in that podcast, and I don't think it's ever really been brought out. But I'm pretty sure the point system was already there and all that. They went in to play test and critique and look at it. But it was pretty much done by then. And, for a company like GW, I don't think that book was born overnight. I'm pretty sure that Age of Sigmar hit, and then they were immediately back in their desks writing the General's Handbook.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, you can listen to interviews with guys like Andy Chambers and some of the old school GW guys on some other podcasts where they talk about when they developed army books and codices. It was multi-year projects. It's not something they just spent like the last 6 months on the new Tyranid book and here it is. No, it's been in production for like 2 years. In fact, some of them said that producing a new set of rules, a new edition of rules, took less time than it did to create the new army books or codices. It would make sense that the General's Handbook in some concept was already being worked on long before, potentially even before Age of Sigmar dropped.
Yeah.
And they, Age of Sigmar is something they've been working on for a long time.
Yeah. There was a podcast that came out not too long ago I listened to, and one of the GW guys was on there and talking about playtesting AOS 2 to 3 years before it dropped.
Yeah.
So
I think it was Bad Dice, right? And I think
yeah,
Ben Curry
yeah,
and
I think it
was talking about how him and Ben
that's
Johnson
it.
was like,
We're
hey,
play testing it.
let's try this stuff out.
2 years
whatever.
ago.
Yeah. So, and if you go back, there's mention of the end times as early as there's like in the Warriors of Chaos book in 8th edition. It's like the 4th or 5th army books to come out for the edition already started talking about the end times. I think that was another, I forget, this one, it might have been Garage Hammer. And this was a while back, but they talked about, if you remember in 8th edition there, the game dropped, 8th edition dropped, and there was like a 10-month drought of nothing.
Yes, nothing.
Then we got a handful of books, and then there was like another 8 to 10 month drought.
Yes.
And the speculation is that those books that were put out in between those droughts, they were not getting the results that GW wanted. And I think maybe that was when they decided, well, we're going to run this edition. We're going to build this up. But in the background, we're
doing the do.
Yeah. We're already going to ramp up for the big one.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So back to the year question, where we had a release of Age of Sigmar to the General's Handbook. What if they did that for 40K? Right. So what if, I know we're pulling for a more extreme change to the game that mirrors Age of Sigmar. Obviously, it can't be a straight port to the rules of Age of Sigmar because 40K doesn't quite work that way.
Right.
But and then there's some people that are like, well, no, they're just going to kind of ever so slightly tweak the game. No, I'm pretty sure that's
the hammer's dropping.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Okay, so what if they ramp up the end times over the next year for 40K? Because it'd be crazy not to string it out longer than they did for Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Blow it all up to some degree, restart very similar to AOS, and then give us a year of no structure for 40K. What do you guys think would be the result of that?
I don't think they would do it.
No?
No.
To keep in mind, if you went back 2 years ago and said what they were going to do with Fantasy
you'd
to
never
anybody,
say they would do it.
99% of people would be like, no way they would ever do that. That's stupid. It's a 30-year-long series of fluff, blah, blah, blah. They'd
Fantasy
be
was
crazy.
dead at that point, though, too.
Well, yeah,
and that's just it. Is you're not talking about a dead system. It's a living, breathing tournament circuit system.
Yeah, but they're not killing the game. It's not like 40K is going to go away. Your models are still... well, not all of our fantasy models are still good, but all your 40K stuff would still be good. It's just we're going to change the rules drastically and then let the community kind of figure it out a little bit.
But see, you can do that now, and it wouldn't surprise me if people like Reese are in back channel discussions right now with a tournament system, and the guys from Nova Open and Paul Murphy with his Warzone Atlanta. And if some of those guys, plus I'm sure some Australian guys, some British guys are already in that process, refining some kind of system already. And my biggest thing for 40K, and I would hate to see it if they did it that way, is you don't need a sandbox for 40K. 40K needs structure right out of the gate because of the way it's played and because of the myriad of options you're going to have. Sigmar has 700 war scrolls. You're going to have at least that number in 40K.
Sure.
But you also want to you don't want to cut off half of your income or over half of your income. So if 50% of the current 40K people drop, like what was sort of presupposed with Age of Sigmar, that would sink the company. That profit margin would go out the window. They're going to hit this before the end times even hits. They're going to have announced, this is the new system, this is the new tournament format, this is the new this is the new, and these are the people that helped us work on it, and it's going to work. Trust us. Have at it, boys and girls. I mean, that to me is, I think, again, like you said, if you told me 2 years ago, they're going to blow up the world and come out with a game that you just play in a sandbox, I would have said the same thing. You're a fool, go away, and stop drinking my beer.
That's what, because the guys at the store, the 40K guys at the store, they don't want to hear that their world might go away or might seriously get changed.
Who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear your game's going to blow up? I do. I mean, I really do. I wouldn't even mind it if they came out with 2 separate games. have, version 8A and version 8B. 8B is Sigmarized, and 8A is just a refinement of what we have now.
Now you're starting to sound like all those trolls on the Age of Sigmar.
Give me my 8
I want my square bases.
Yeah,
Put it back on square, and
You're
money
right.
will fall from the skies.
Yeah, like it was doing before.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Well, I don't need any new armies. I already got them. Oh, so you're not going to buy anything for this new game? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we beat that dead horse, but I don't think they would do it. Not to their cash cow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I would have to agree.
It's
with you.
fun to think about because I'm sure they've thought about. I'm absolutely certain that they've had meetings about just that.
Sure.
So I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall any day.
Yeah.
At Warhammer World.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
So anyway, that was our best of 2016 roundup, right?
Yeah.
So we're probably wrong. So tell us in comments, emails, Twitters, whatever it is. So now we're actually going to move on to some feedback that we've received from listeners. And some of it's pretty thought-provoking this time around.
So we basically took a page, I took a page out of the Age of Sigmar playbook and opened up discussion with our followers and basically asked if there was any topics they wanted us to talk about or had any questions for us. So I'm going to go over what we got. So we're going to start with a guy named Jeff Osborne sent me a message. Says, if you are recording an episode tonight, I'd love to hear your thoughts on general list building in Sigmar. I'm hoping to start into it, but I'm an experienced 40k player. Is it similar from a list building concept? Do I want to spam units? Do I want to build around a gimmick or special rule? Because of the mission design, do I need a good spread of ranged units, combat units, special characters, and hordes? Really appreciate it. I'm thinking of going Oryx. Keep up the great work. So, list building, which can be a whole show topic on itself.
Yeah, it really would be. Wow.
I think he's got some pretty good concepts there.
Spam units?
No, well, I don't think it's as bad as 40k where you're doing 9 units.
Well, it depends on your allegiance, because some allegiances are pretty small. So it'd be hard if you played like an Everchosen to not spam like very
Yeah. So I think you want, from what I've seen, you need a somewhat balanced list. Even we saw Russ, he was doing his Bloodbound. Bloodbound, everyone thinks it's just a close combat army.
Right.
Just run up, smash him in the face. That's what he was doing. But when he took his list to the next level, he added a wizard in there with Kairos. He added some ranged in there with the Warp Lightning cannons.
Yeah.
So I think the best lists I've seen, we're even seeing that with Destruction too. The top list for Destruction, it's fighty characters for Beast Claws, and then you're throwing in a lot of bodies with Grots or Savage Orcs or something like that.
And some magic, throw in some cheap Grot casters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think a well-balanced list that's not just dominating one phase is probably your best approach for that, from what I'm seeing in our local meta and, the big meta from a lot of the UK scene. I think you're going to do a lot better with a balanced list, because if not, you're going to line up in the same, I think we were talking earlier with the Bone Splitters, you're going to land up with super hard rock, paper, scissors matches with Bone Splitters. Yeah. Because if you're doing pure Bone Splitters, they got a gimmick. They're spamming that 40 man unit of archers, but they have no more wound output. And if they're going against a big unit of fulminators, a tree lord, and tree man that have a 2-up rerolling ones, they're not going to do anything against them.
They're not going to hurt that.
So I think you definitely need to go with a balanced list, some of everything in there. You want to participate in every phase. Spamming a unit, sure, I guess you're spamming a unit. I know with my Sylvaneth, I have 3 units of Kurnoth Hunters, and in my Stormcast, I had 3 units of Dracoth Riders, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Sure, I guess that's somewhat spamming.
But like you were saying earlier, and you've brought out before, and we even talked with Reese about, you also have to list build with that first turn in mind. So if you are going to be on the receiving end of an alpha strike, you have to be able to take it.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to be that guy doing the alpha strike, you have to set things up so that if you don't get first turn, can you react?
Yeah. I think we were talking about that earlier, and I think that's where the having a balanced list comes into play.
Yeah.
Whereas you can build your list a certain way. For ideally, you want to build your list with as few drops as possible, maximizing the amount of units you have.
Yeah, as far as like, you asked about a gimmicky list, there's plenty of gimmicky lists out there. In Age of
Bone Splitters, you
Sigmar.
got your multiple shots.
Yeah, the Cunning Ruck.
Cunning Ruck.
Mhm.
There's the Extreme Clan Scryer where you just try to spam.
Pop up and do 70 mortal wounds to something.
Yeah, and if you look at how because those armies are present in the large tournaments and stuff, and they just don't do well because gimmicks just don't tend to work as well as an army that is just well rounded. Having a little bit of chaff to bubble wrap with, and then more than one combat threat is also, don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
You're not doing Death Stars like in 40k. Or
Right,
anything like
right.
that. Unless it's a through with rolls.
Having like a little bit of redundancy maybe built into your list as well, because again, in Age of Sigmar, characters die.
Yeah.
You can't park them
So it's
inside units.
Not maybe necessarily spamming, but redundancy you definitely want in your list.
Yeah, for sure. And units out there that are capable of performing well by themselves is always nice to have as well. That's why I like my brutes, because they get better as there's other stuff around them or whatever, but even on their own, they're pretty nasty. That's why like Dracoth Riders are really good for Stormcast Eternals, because on their own, they're still really fast, really durable. They have tons of damage output, things like that. The entire effing Sylvaneth book is like that. So, it's also nice to have some stuff like that in your army as well. And like I said, multiple combat threats, because, if you do that was the problem I ran into before the General's Handbook dropped when we went to Slobberknocker and I had my Khorne list, it was mostly demons. Really, my combat punches were the 30-man unit of Bloodletters and Scarbrand. And both those things are incredibly fragile and didn't take much focus from my opponent to put them down. And once those were gone, my teeth were pretty much
kicked in.
Yeah, I just didn't have the ability to put damage on my opponent the way I needed to anymore, and still be able to hold objectives and things like that. So
yeah, and this, like we've talked before, the scenarios will, if you're building competitively, the scenarios are going to dictate how you build your lists.
Yeah, for sure.
You really need, and since there is no tabling my opponent, I win, like in 40k.
Yeah,
you need to win on objectives. So you need to build your list around those 6 scenarios. And I think we've said it before, Russ helped build those from Basehammer, and he built them where it's really tough to have one single list.
A gimmicky list.
Especially a gimmicky list.
Right.
Because that's where Scryer, they run into problems with 2 of the scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they aren't on top tables. Yeah, they'll win. They'll decimate their opponents in 4 of those 6 scenarios, but in those other 2, they're...
Also keep in mind that just decimating your opponent doesn't necessarily mean anything, because that isn't necessarily how you get a major win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's under the current way they score in the General's Handbook and the way GW has been running events and whatnot. It's about getting major wins. And so you got to look at how your list is capable of getting those major wins. And it's hard to build a list that is capable of getting major wins in all 6 scenarios.
Yeah. If you have a sideboard, it's a little bit easier, but it's still pretty difficult to... I think there's very few armies out there. I think Sylvaneth is probably one of the few that can build a all-purpose list that takes care of all 6 reasonably well. I mean, I'll still be using a sideboard to help augment for certain scenarios, but...
With the sideboard, it allows pretty much everyone else to
reach
be
that
able
level.
to slot in needed things like an extra character or
for 3 places of power.
or an extra unit with big bodies,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And that's another thing you got to take into account are the events that you want to go to and compete at, are they going to use either a sideboard, which is fairly common, or what I think is a really great idea is the double list that they ran at Facehammer, or none of that stuff. There's going to be events, I'm sure, that are going to not allow any of that kind of stuff. So those are all things that you have to take into account when you're writing your list for the event.
Yeah, and if you're looking for any tips on list building, TGA.community, I think, is a really good place to start. I know there's a really good Sylvaneth thread on there. I know there's a pretty good Fire Slayer thread on there.
There's a massive Iron Jaws.
Yeah,
yeah,
Iron Jaws. I mean, there's
which
people
is branched
on.
out, I think, into destruction in general.
Yeah,
as
I mean, so
well,
it's not necessarily net listing, but there's people out there playing this stuff, and they can give you their feedback on what these units do. That way, you're not going out and dropping money on them or whatever. You know.
And the nice part is you can ask list questions on TGA and not get flamed off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Exactly.
So it's
because everybody's there for
Taka
the same
or,
purpose, which is nice.
Yeah, people actually will help.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a future show if we go more in depth in it.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
where to start. I mean,
List building.
hopefully,
Yeah.
I know Russ at when they had Face MRGT, he had a big, huge seminar on that. And I think they recorded it. I'm
Oh, nice.
hoping they put that out at
we
some
can pirate
point.
some of his tips.
Oh yeah,
In a big way. Look how smart we sound.
When you write a list, you want to write it to win. There you go. Stephen Duvall sends us a message on Facebook, says, playing an LVO GT, and they are measuring base to base. So bases matter. My Plague Bearers are all on 28mm rounds. I think he means 25. But the new start collecting boxes come with 32mm rounds. 25 is much better for getting guys into combat, so there is an advantage to leaving my guys as they are. Do you think GW will require standardized unit base sizes in the future for pitched battles? How's that going to go over after a year and a half of GW saying bases don't matter? Bad enough to convert square to round bases, but to have to convert from 25 to 32mm would be a pain. Thoughts?
I'd say buy some 32s. So
I
think you're going to need them.
it's the demons. This is like the one exception to the rule
Yeah.
with everything else because they've been packaging 25mm with them for the last
'Cause they used
10 years,
25s and
15 years.
40K.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
true.
I mean, and they changed that with the Space Marines from 25 to 32, but I don't think I've ever seen a 40K tournament that requires you to have all your Marines. I mean, I'm not saying they're not out there, but
Sure.
I'm saying the majority of them don't require you to have all your Marines on 32s. I think,
But
would it be nice? Sure.
if they ruled it one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I think technically they're the bases they come with.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
true.
So
Well,
I think
you
but
can't
that
be
same.
faulted.
Oh, sorry.
Because you can't be faulted for building it as bought, as purchased.
Right, but that same argument can be used for people who want to slap their crap on square bases and still want the game to cater to their.
no, I can see them saying on rounds, but you know,
Okay.
but and like we were talking earlier, I don't think it's we're talking about the core unit or the battle line units for the demons, which they're nothing necessarily to write home about. They're not, they're not like broken or
It's not the crux of your army.
it's not the crux of your army. I think, we talked about earlier. We're 25 versus 32. Yeah, you're gonna get maybe some more attacks in. I mean, but again, we're talking about there's other advantages, board control.
Right.
So if you're on,
there's pros and cons.
there's
for
pros and
both.
cons for each one. So I think that's probably one of the exceptions that'll slip through the cracks.
And to answer his question a little more succinctly is, don't forget that there's still a ton of companies out there that are making 25 to 32 adapters,
Sure.
that you just slide down on there and boom, instantly you have a 32. So if you're going to a tournament that requires it, you have a couple bags of those in there, bam, you're automatically compliant.
Yeah, it was a point that I made when we had Tyler on, and I said that this is something, not necessarily the demon infantry specifically, but bases in general is something that I feel Games Workshop is going to have to kind of draw a line in the sand at a certain point. Maybe, hopefully they'll do it with the General's Handbook 2, where they say, look, we're going to do base to base is going to be a real thing that we enforce. Stuff needs to be on rounds. Here's a list of, rounds that your units need to be on or whatever. Just, they need to maybe take a harder stance on that stuff. So
I think they do, if only just to eliminate this confusion, because it's coming up a lot.
To an extent, and I saw some stuff online with the Dawn Spire of Dawn box that we were talking about earlier. Still technically comes with square bases.
Yeah.
Right? So of course, all the haters were like, "Oh, look, it's sold out and it comes with squares." It's like, yeah, clown shoes, but it also comes with rounds, so knock it off. Anyways, that's a different rant. So, to answer your question, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
No.
As far as having to rebase again after already having to rebase once, you could ask Beastman players how they felt about having to do that from edition to edition. But yeah, I really wouldn't worry about it too much because again, it really is just the demonettes, plague bearers, bloodletters, and horrors that I think that's it. That this is really an issue.
Plus, some of those models look really kind of funky on 32s. Demonettes,
yeah.
Yeah, they look kind of...
The others, I think, look fine.
No, those other ones are fine on 32s.
Yeah.
Plague Bears, maybe a little bit. But Demonettes for sure.
Cheap.
But yeah, exactly. Adapters are... And I don't think that's going to be a rule in most tournaments.
Yep.
All right. So, Mike Youngblood, one of our locals, asks opinions on whole alliance versus faction, like Chaos versus Khorne Bloodbound. I'm not quite sure exactly. I guess just like a general opinion? Maybe for like building a fluff list?
Well, we're kind of talking about this. I mean, I think we're saying the way to go for sure. I think for 3 of the 4 alliances is you need to look at it as a whole alliance. And most of the top competitive army lists that we're seeing are they're mixed. The only ones who are not mixed are Stormcast and Sylvaneth. And those are the order ones. They're kind of the ones that are the best standalone factions.
Yeah.
And everything else, destruction. You're seeing mixed lists. You're seeing Beastclaw Raiders with Grots or Savage Orcs. You're seeing Death. You're seeing that's a whole mix of everything.
Well, Death kind of has to be because they only have Flesh Eater core.
And then Chaos is, unless you're taking a Scryer list, you're seeing, like Terry's list, you're seeing Storm Fiends, Plague Bearers, Tzeentch. I mean, it's the whole mix of everything. I think gone are the days of single factions.
Maybe.
Necessarily.
Again, if the Sylvaneth book sets a standard, then maybe you can reliably go back to... it'll be a viable option.
I think it could be an option, but I think
I'm kind of wondering that isn't it fluffy to have it that way? That the order alliances are actually able to stand on their own, whereas everybody else actually needs help from something else. That way you can drive a wedge between them.
No, because in the fluff, just being on the side of order doesn't necessarily mean you work together. So,
right.
And also there's plenty of cases where like order and death work together and order and destruction. Really, and even there's some cases where order and chaos and stuff like that with like the Fire Slayers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. For me, like the sweet spot would be a book that is viable as its own independent faction, and then can also benefit from working in units from the Grand Alliance. So like Beastclaw Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say Beastclaw Raiders, exactly.
Yeah. Basically like the opposite of like Iron Jaws or maybe Fire Slayers. Again, haven't really experienced them too much, but I think they're an army that just gets better the more you focus on Fire Slayers because of the way their synergy.
I think Sylvaneth is like that. Other than the Kurnoth Hunters with bows, I don't think there's much in that army that you'd want to take in.
What about the
Grand Alliance
formation that incorporates Stormcast? Do you think there's any legs? I haven't really looked at that one, but
that was okay. I mean, it's like any of the other Stormcast. I mean, I'm using one with an Order Wizard, so
yeah.
I mean, you get some variation. You're not getting a lot, but I don't know. From what I'm seeing, it's like either they're really good on their own, or they're kind of they mix in well with others. They're supposed to be used in conjunction with others.
I think another good example is Khorne Bloodbound. I think Khorne Bloodbound by themselves are a pretty solid army.
They can be.
But you can also, like Russ does, you can incorporate units.
Some magic and some scryer and
some shooting and stuff like that. And it certainly doesn't hurt your army to do that. So, but yeah, I hope, Mike, that answers your question. That That's kind of what I would like is the army books to be around that level. So Andrew asks us about Beast Claw Raiders.
Didn't we do a show on those?
Yeah, well, he wasn't here for it.
Yeah. We finished
Ryan
that one.
asked us about Beast Claw Raiders. Never gonna happen, apparently. All right. So on Twitter, Alex Nygaard, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right,
Yeah, I think so.
asked us, how bad do you guys really roll? Have you guys played any Realm Gate Wars books battle plans? And least favorite unit released of 2016.
Ooh.
So as far as how bad do we really roll? Everybody in the group rolls terribly so that James can take all of our juju and roll nothing but 5s and 6s
Yep.
all day long.
That's. Hey, I'm a demon player and a Bretonian player before that, so
yeah.
5 up. That's the way I roll.
He took my mojo.
Yeah. That's pretty much how that goes. As far as Realm Gate Wars books battle plans, no, we have not played any of those yet, and I very much want to go over them. I'm really going to start digging in for the narrative event that we got coming up in April. I really want to start digging through those battle plans, and Alex, I believe, is also the guy that did the...
He's the one who did the end times.
Yep.
Right, so I would kind of like to maybe get my mitts in some of that and see what juicy bits there are there.
And I'll put a note in the show notes, a link to that. If you haven't seen the work that he did to make all of the end times scenarios, everything work for Age of Sigmar, it was a masterful task. Amazing work.
And least favorite unit released in 2016?
Oh, wow.
Probably pretty much anything with the Sylvaneth tag. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really go wrong with
No, not really.
Sylvaneth hate.
I've got
I'm
to
going to
say,
hop on that bandwagon. I'm going to drive that bandwagon. And
I've
it's
gotta
never
say-
going to stop.
yeah.
You played some of that once, I think, too.
And that's all I needed. The hatred is strong with this one.
Yeah. Let go of the hate. Nah, I like it.
No, it feels pretty good. Feels pretty justified.
I think the Stormcast Mage Not Killer,
The Night Venator.
Yep.
he has to be about the biggest disappointment. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
beautiful model.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of... Maybe that was hype and expectations versus
And,
reality.
yeah, and what he does is just like...
Again, I feel like when he was released, there might have been a bit of Stormcast fatigue.
Yeah,
And
well,
people
that's
are
true.
just like, can we just get a whole new faction, something a little more progression instead of another Stormcast model? Maybe.
But what else could be worse than that? Oh, we're forgetting the obvious. The White Dwarf. Grombrindal.
Oh, well played, sir. Well played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had blocked that one out of my memory.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for
Dredging up that.
for triggering me. Yeah, I'd probably Grombrindal is pretty bad. Yeah, I'm gonna give my worst.
James, you like that one? The White Dwarf is the worst model?
Maybe. I'm still going to go with the Stormcast guy. I
Okay.
really don't care about Durfs, or however you say it.
No. This hate's a one-way street.
Yes. I
Dwarfs.
can have vitriol, not
There
you.
you
Yeah. All right. So Scrubby and Wells, our good buddy Tyler, asks us, what's undervalued about AOS?
Its ability to get hot chicks into the bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a hard time in the bars until I got the combat gauge.
Yeah. See?
And then when that was the only thing I started wearing into the bars, I still didn't get any chicks, but
I don't think that's what Tyler
probably didn't help that I brought my wife with me both
Yeah,
times.
that might have hurt.
Womp womp. What's undervalued about Aegis? Man, that's a good question.
Wow.
Undervalued. You should start playing the Jeopardy music in the
Yeah,
background.
I wish I had it. All I have is donkey.
Should we save that for another show?
Yeah.
You know, we probably should hit that one. Do we want to drop the news about next week? what's going to happen is we're going to record next week as well because of the way the holidays fall this year, and we want to keep up with our schedule. So our next scheduled recording is going to be next week. So it'll give us a week to think about that one and then hit it.
Yeah, let's come back to that one because
That's a tough one.
it's a really broad question, but it's also a really good question.
Yeah.
I might have to.
That's typical Tyler.
Yeah, typical Tyler.
Yeah, he's trying to make us think.
Ah.
Can't you just leave us alone and drink?
If you heard earlier, my brain pretty much shut down, so
It's
on autopilot. He also asks, in general, what do you believe is true that almost no one else does?
Sylvaneth suck.
Yeah, I went over these questions earlier, and all kinds of other stuff came up, like chemtrails and flat Earth, and yeah. But as far as, damn it, Tyler, you ask questions that like require so much thought. Yeah, that Sylvaneth are frickin' bent because everyone else seems to think, oh yeah, they're good, but Stormcasts are way better.
Except for everyone except for Ken Hammer Chris. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
Chris knows what's up. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we're gonna have to touch on
That one again.
on both the Tyler's questions the next show because
We just unfriend him and we won't have to deal with it. That's hard.
yeah, because I don't know how much we're getting out of this other than we're looking like a bunch of morons. And I don't need any help doing that. All right, so we got another one. Charles Moore asks, what subfaction would you most like to see expanded next? Well, for me, it'd be Dwarden, you know, the Steamforged or whatever it's going to be, the Dispossessed. They give them a new label. But as far as maybe like a really small faction, oh man, there's some really cool ones in the Order, like the Phoenix Temple, the Dragon.
Or King College would be neat.
Yeah.
Eldritch Council.
Yeah.
Eldritch Council.
I really like Sword Masters.
Yeah. The Order Draconis, maybe for me.
I'd like to see something Death, because I'd like to branch out from Order.
Yeah, well, Death is an alliance. I would like to see expanded
that has more than one thing.
Yeah. Hopefully they finally get around to giving Death some serious love.
Yeah.
So, that's those. And so, that's pretty much it.
So that's going to do it for the viewer mail. We're going to move into a quick announcement. Elric, you want to handle that?
So we're also going to be running an LVO prep event. It's going to be, we've already submitted it for the ICTC, so that should be up on their site soon. On January 7th, here in Albuquerque at the Active Imagination Gaming Store. And it's just going to be 3 scenarios randomly picked.
Yeah.
And using all the rules that can be found in the Las Vegas Open tournament pack that Games Workshop put up. So essentially, if you have any questions, check that out. And then if you have any further questions, let me know and I can answer those for you. But
no prizes, no nothing. Just
no entry fee. Just come down.
We're just prepping for the big tournament
and see if your list works or anything like that.
Or if you just want to get 3 games of AOS in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. And then narrative event will be April 16th and 17th. So still coming up with a name. But if you're going to be in this part of the Fallout 4 world, then during the middle of, right smack dab in the middle of April, come on down and it's going to be a blast. I'll definitely be giving more information leading up to that. Definitely after the Las Vegas Open, because right now that's kind of eating up a lot of calories, but that and myself. But after the LVO, definitely going to be putting out a lot of info for that. So. And there you go. That's an episode.
That's a show.
If you would like to get a hold of us, you can reach us at our email address, which is rollingbadpodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit our website at rollingbad.com. We have a Twitter account for the podcast, which is @rolling_bad. We also have a Facebook page. You can just search for Rolling Bad on Facebook. We each have an individual Twitter account. You can reach me at Elric Edge.
You can get me at Bill Castello, Castello.
And I'm at Tersoth.
You can also see our work, mostly James, at our Instagram page, Rolling Bad, all one word. start the guilt trip, or?
Oh yeah, that's helping a lot. What do you want me to do?
I thought you were gonna cast the pumpkins.
I did. I cast that one. You said you hated it.
I didn't say I hated it. I just said you disappointed me.
That's a given on any particular day.
What's it called when it's like the center of your army?
Centerpiece?
Centerpiece. Centerpiece. That's the one.
That's staying in.
Oh, man. Come on, brain. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It is. I'm going to see if I can lift my left arm. It still works. God.
And then there was silence.
Sorry, just trying to answer quick questions here as well.
So let me throw another softball. Remember, kids, don't podcast and text. It's dangerous.
Okay. You can talk too, James.
I was looking at the battalion box
For Sylvaneth.
for Sylvaneth. You just literally need to buy a Lariel and one box of Dryads.
Jeez.
To
And
get
it's
the-
his list.
Yeah, you can get it as cheap as like $136
Yep.
for that box. It's ridiculous.
I'm switching to Sylvaneth, that's for sure.
Do it, Bill. Don't be scared.
No. I like my lizards, even though they're unplayable.
Literally.
Literally.
If you guys want to try to beat our head against the wall again, try to. What's undervalued about Age of Sigmar?
We can always cop out and say, the sense of community.
Oh my god. No,
Well,
that's
let's not
way
do that.
overvalued.
Yeah, I just want to beat face and win games.
Yeah, if
So-
I could play this game without talking to you guys, that would be perfect. If I could do this podcast without talking to you guys, that would be perfect.
Okay, we'll go in the booth. Jesus Christ. You're not Duncan Rhodes yet.
Ah. Yeah, it would require me to paint.
Oh, yeah.